Hello everyone, I'm Chris Ferrandou, I'm the CEO of goFLUENT, and I would like to welcome you to our webinar on mobile learning. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are very happy to welcome today over 200 companies from all over Europe. It shows that mobile learning is obviously an important subject for all learning and development teams. I would like to thank Dr. Charles Brown for joining us today. Charles is Professor of Applied Linguistics and Director of EFL Teacher Training Program at one of the most prestigious universities in Japan. He is joining us today from his office in Tokyo. Charles is one of the most recognized researchers on English training method in the world. He has published a lot of books, and he has agreed today to share with us what mobile learning is offering for English training. And Charles is also a pedagogical advisor of goFLUENT, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank him for our many years of working together. Murad Larab, a Digital Learning Innovation Manager at Thales University, and the one who started and continues to lead the Mobile Learning Initiative for Thales, is unable to join us today, and he apologized for this. However, he allowed us to present his part today, so you will still be able to learn about Thales' strategy for mobile learning. And I'd like to say that I'm very happy that we can have this presentation today of Thales initiative, because we have a lot, we are involved in a lot of mobile learning programs at goFLUENT with our clients, and we feel that the one Thales has developed is maybe one of the few excellent ones we have seen, and we can learn a lot from it. Also, as Murad will not be able to join today, he agreed to have a follow-up webinar on Tuesday next week. So for any of you who would like to still ask him questions, we will share more information with you later. goFLUENT wrote a white paper on mobile learning in 2012, 3 years ago, and since then a lot has changed, and we have seen amazing things, and numbers are pretty impressive. Obviously, learning and development department teams cannot skip this subject any longer. Your employees already access information and knowledge on their mobile devices. Whether organizations provide them with these devices or not, they are, most of them, already equipped and already learning on their mobile devices. So we picked two numbers, but there are a lot of impressive numbers on mobile. The first number we picked is there were 7 times more mobile devices, 7 times more mobile devices shipped in the world in 2014 compared to PCs. That's impressive. And in terms of data, the mobile data traffic is going 3 times faster than the fixed PC traffic. This is also a very important number, and it shows how fast things are going around mobile, and therefore mobile learning. Our experience at goFLUENT with our learners shows also the trend towards mobile learning. We moved early in mobile learning, again I said in 2012, and the numbers we have seen are pretty impressive since then. So also a few key numbers I want to share with you today. In the past 6 months, just on our mobile apps, we doubled the number of users in just 6 months. This is really impressive again. I should stop using the word impressive all the time. And also knowing that today 15% of our corporate learners are accessing our e-learning portal with mobile devices. And again, goFLUENT is a pure B2B player. 15% of our corporate learners are using smartphone, tablets to learn. And the last number I'd like to share with you is a percentage of our mobile learners using tablets and not smartphones. 35% of our mobile learners are using tablets. While the market share of tablets is much lower than that, one of the reasons is obviously that tablets are better suited for e-learning. To better explain why language learning is maximized with the help of mobile devices and why it is important for all of us in the learning and development field to tap into the power of mobile learning, I would like now to call on Dr. Charles Brown to share with us his expertise on the subject.
Thank you very much. Let me just make sure I have mouse control. I think I do. Hopefully you're all hearing me well. Thank you so much, Christophe, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here to join you from Tokyo, Japan. As Christophe mentioned, I'm a professor of applied linguistics and director of a teacher training program here, but I should also mention that I've been involved in the area of technology and language learning fairly seriously all the way back since 1988. So this is going on 3 decades of me thinking very deeply and trying very hard to come up with solutions for mobile learning. By mobile learning, I mean every kind of electronic device. But what I'd like to talk with you today about is basically to try and answer the question of why, or at least to begin to answer the question of why. Why M-learning, let's call it M-learning, mobile learning. Why M-learning is so important and so useful for English language learning. And let me just see if I can push this to the next slide. Let's see, it's not. Can someone do it over there? Okay, we got it. That's great. So the first slide, I mean, I think this may seem like a very obvious point, but actually it's a very important one. And I think that you know, why M-learning is so useful for organizations. One of the points has to do with the fact that mobile learning is really giving learners materials in the way that they want them. It increases and simplifies access to learning materials and fits in with this whole idea of cloud computing, which has become so prevalent over the past 4 or 5 years. People have the expectation that they're going to be able to learn anytime or anywhere, and this is really how M-learning can help us. Okay, here we go. Whoops, let's go back one slide. There we go. Now, why is, you know, the question of why also has to be considered from the point of view of pedagogy. Too many language learning platforms, too much software out there is not very good. And the reason it's not very good is because it looks very flashy, but underneath the flash is not very well thought out understanding of how people learn languages and thus how languages should be taught. These things need to be considered when we talk about M-learning, mobile learning. And one of the really positive, useful ways to utilize M-learning has to do with this very important pedagogic need to provide language learners with more input in English. If you're learning English in an ESL, English is a second language situation, such as, you know, if you're a student living in the UK or in the United States or Australia, when you go to the classroom, you study English, but when you leave the classroom, there's also English. So you're exposed to English pretty much 24 hours a day, and you're getting lots and lots of input. But that's not the case for EFL learners, English as a foreign language learners. English learners who are studying English in France or Japan or Puerto Rico or somewhere else. They get exposed to English in the classroom, maybe 60 minutes or 90 minutes once or twice a week, but when they leave the classroom, they're not exposed to English outside of the classroom, and this is a real problem. There's a researcher named Stephen Krashen who came up with something called the input hypothesis in 1983 and subsequent publications including 85 and 87. And basically his theory, his research, whoops, somebody has moved the slide. Can we go back to the same slide again, please? Okay, hold on a second. I'm not seeing my PowerPoint. Can somebody move that for me? I no longer have control of the PowerPoint, so somebody else will have to do it. Hopefully, you are seeing the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is gone from my screen, and I don't seem to have control here. Okay, there we go. Thank you. If somebody else is controlling, I can just say when to move forward. But let me continue with talking about this very important concept of input. Basically, what Stephen Krashen found in the 1980s, and what many researchers have agreed with subsequently, is that one of the most important factors for learning English as a second language is to be exposed to large amounts of input, that you need to be getting input on a daily basis. And this is one of the key factors of language acquisition. But what Krashen said is not only that you need lots and lots of input, but that the input has to be at an appropriate level. So if your level is here, and you're a second language learner of English and you're at intermediate level, but all of the input is way up here, it's not really input, is it? You can't understand it, so it doesn't really help you. So one of the important things that Krashen pointed out is that input has to be much closer to your level for it to be comprehensible. He talks about the idea of comprehensible input. And if you are getting lots and lots and lots of input very close to your level, you're almost automatically going to be learning English. So one of the important factors for input is that it needs to be comprehensible. Also, input needs to be interesting. Input needs to be on topics that that are relevant to you. So if you're an employee in an electronics company, you might want to be getting input about electronics, videos and articles and information about that topic. If you are interested in a sport like skiing, maybe you want to get input on that topic. So the input should be understandable, it should be interesting, it should be authentic to the extent possible, because textbook English doesn't really help us that much in the long run. We need to be getting input at our level that is authentic, and we need a lot of it. Now, why am I talking about all of this? What does this have to do with mobile learning, with M-learning? Well, it turns out that mobile devices, especially smartphones and tablet devices, are just perfect devices for providing students with lots and lots of this comprehensible input, whether it be through reading or listening or even video. And can somebody move? Let's see, the next slide. Do I have control? No. Okay, here we go. So in the next slide, what we can see is that that video is one of these important forms of comprehensible input, and that the mobile device is a really good platform for providing this content. In the 80s and 90s, we talked about something called extensive reading. And even today, it's still a very popular and very important approach to second language learning. If the students are leveled here, we give them reading materials here. If they're leveled here, we give them reading materials here. We have them read extensively, it means reading a lot, and reading at their level. And extensive reading has helped millions of people, or hundreds of thousands, I should say, maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of people around the world have greatly improved their language learning proficiency simply by doing lots and lots of input through extensive reading and extensive listening. Well, over the past 5 to 7 years, what we've seen is the incredible increase in use of mobile devices, of cell phones and smartphones and tablets, and that one of the main things that people access through those devices is video. So back in the 80s and 90s, one of the very popular digital sites that gave us lots and lots of input for free was called Gutenberg, Project Gutenberg. And Project Gutenberg, what they did is they collected tens of thousands of books from all over the world, mostly in English, that were out of copyright protection, and they digitalized the books and then made them free to everybody so that people could read them, whether it's on their iPad or whether it's on their cell phone. All of it is available via Gutenberg. But this is basically today, I think it is online video that is the equivalent of Gutenberg. If we are giving students lots and lots of video at their level, what happens is this, if you look on the left side of your screen, you can see this wonderful positive spiral. Basically, if students are getting material at their level, then they read more. And as they read more, they learn more. And as they learn more, they enjoy more. And as they read and learn and enjoy more, they read faster. It's this positive spiral. What happens in many learning situations is a negative spiral. Students' level is here, they're given reading materials up here, and they try to read, but they can't. So they lose their confidence and they read less. And they try again and they can't, and so they lose their motivation. So their confidence is going down, their motivation is going down, their desire to learn eventually goes down. What we do with extensive reading, extensive listening, and extensive video, if we give the materials at their level through the mobile devices, what we're doing is we're increasing their confidence, increasing their motivation, and as they read more and listen more and watch more video, they get better and better. They learn more, they read faster, they listen faster, they enjoy more, and it's a very good positive spiral. Okay, let's see if we can get to the next slide. Okay, the next slide is basically a very nice, let me see, very nice quote by Albert Einstein. Let me see if I can get that quote up here. Having just a little bit of trouble. And this has to do with the concept of what I'm going to call, and maybe you've heard this term, the flipped classroom. Have you ever heard of the term, the flipped classroom? This is a very, very popular approach to language learning, and it's basically the idea of flipping the roles between the teacher and the student. What Albert Einstein said is that I never teach my pupils. I only attempt to provide conditions in which they can learn. Okay, and so I think this is a very important concept to keep in mind as we consider what to do in terms of mobile learning. Mobile learning can provide additional and relevant conditions for employees to learn if it's done properly. So what do we mean by doing properly? Let's go to the next slide. Let's see, it seems like it's moving. This is a better slide of what I mean by the flipped classroom. Now, the flipped classroom, this term was actually coined quite a long time ago, back in the early 90s, by a guy named Eric Mazur. And, basically, as I said, this is the idea. The flipped classroom is the idea of switching the roles of what teachers and students do. But the term flipped classroom became very popular just 4, 5, maybe 6 years ago, and it was popularized by a guy named Khan. Solomon Khan. And Solomon Khan gave what's called a TED Talk, and I'm sure many of you have heard of TED. It's a very popular website that has free video lectures by famous, inspiring people from all over the world in many different fields. And these TED Talks are very exciting because people talk about the latest research and the most exciting ideas, and they give these very wonderful lectures. But within the TED Talks, they just started about 5, 6 years ago, I think, but the most popular of the early TED Talks in the first couple of years was this TED Talk by Solomon Khan called The Flipped Classroom. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's worth going back and watching. It's a very good lecture. But what I'd like to do is tell you why the flipped classroom is an important concept for mobile learning. Basically, what we have in a traditional classroom is what you see on the left-hand part of your slide, and this is the traditional role of the teacher as the lecturer. The teacher we look at the teacher as the giver of information, the imparter of knowledge. And the teacher stands in the front of the classroom and speaks and speaks and speaks, What do the students do? In a traditional classroom, usually the students are quiet. They sit there silently, and what teachers want is for them to silently sit down and write down notes and take notes. Then at home, what the students do, the teacher usually gives them some questions, some homework, and the students go home and they answer the questions thinking about what they learned in the lecture. Now, the flipped classroom basically is saying that that's not always the best way to teach, because basically the role of the teacher and the role of the student needs to be a little different if we want students to become proficient in English as a second language. Students cannot be just passive and sit there silently. Students need to be more active. And what the flipped classroom is saying is that what we should do is, if there is going to be a lecture introducing new information, that lecture can be done online. It can be given via mobile device, via a smartphone, or via a tablet, or via a PC. And so when the teacher is doing all the talking, or when the students have to read a lot of new information, that reading or listening or watching, that can be done online at home. And if we do that, that frees up the classroom time, so that inside of the classroom, the students have more time not to just passively listen to the teacher, but to more actively speak out, for students to share ideas, to argue, to discuss, to do what we call critical thinking skills development. In the flipped classroom, this is the teacher's role is not that of lecturer, not that of the giver of information. The teacher's role, he or she is seen as a facilitator. The purpose of the teacher here is to create activities and an atmosphere that pulls students out, that gets students to talk to each other and exchange ideas and to think more deeply. And the research shows the more deeply students think, the more deeply students process information and material, the better they learn and the longer they remember it. So this is one of the reasons why I think that the flipped classroom is a very good pedagogically sound technique for mobile learning. So let's see if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so just one last area that I wanted to briefly touch upon is why mobile learning and M-learning is good for learners. We've already talked a little bit about why it's good for organizations. We've talked a little bit now. What I'd like to do now is talk a little bit about why it's good for learners. And one of the key reasons here is something I mentioned before, and this has to do with learner expectations, and that is that most learners they have this expectation that they are going to be able to use all of their devices. And for me, the main device is my iPhone, my iPad, my Kindle device, and my PC. And throughout the course of the day, from morning to night, I use all four of these devices, and I use them pretty equally. I split up the time pretty equally. And my own expectations are that I will be able to start something on one device and continue that same thing on a different device later in the day. Now, how do I choose which device to use? I choose the device I'm going to use the same way you probably choose your device. And that is that we make the decision based it's a personal choice that's based on a variety of factors, which includes the location where we are, whether we're at home or whether we're in transit on a bus or a train, or whether we're at work. And based on our location, based on our attitude and our state of mind, based on the goal, and based on the amount of time that we have available, based on these 3 or 4 factors, we'll choose one of those devices. And we do have this expectation that we're going to be able to seamlessly move across devices with the content that we start with one. Now, if you're a mobile developer, if you're trying to develop M-learning content or M-learning software, you need to think a little bit about something called learner need. students will choose which device they're going to use, and they'll choose to learn from that device, based on learner need. And a guy named Dr. Conrad Gottfredson identified at least 5, if not more, moments of learning need. Those are moments when students are more likely and more desirous of learning. And one of those, one of the moments is the first time that you learn something. And when you learn something for the first time, when you're starting a new project, when you're starting a new skill, when you're learning a new software, you have a very, very strong desire to learn as efficiently and quickly as possible. Also, when you want to learn more about a topic or some information, that's another moment when you have a very strong learning need. When you're trying to remember information that you've previously learned, that's another moment. When something changes, when information changes, when a situation changes, that's when you reach for your mobile device and you're really, quickly and desperately looking for information, and there's a very strong learner need there too. And of course, when something goes wrong. So at any of these moments, if we can create mobile content and mobile learning activities and mobile learning solutions that sort of has materials and activities ready for each of these needs, it's more likely to be used by the learner. And I think we can just slide through that. Those should have popped up. Sorry about that. So let's go to the next slide. Another point that I wanted to make, this is a very nice quote by Dr. Heidi Hayes Jacobs. And what she says here is that teachers need to integrate technology seamlessly into the curriculum instead of viewing it as an add-on, an afterthought, or an event. And I think this is also another very important point you need to remember when you're making M-learning solutions, or when you're choosing an M-learning solution for your learning program. When M-learning devices, software, content, when they're just sort of put together as an add-on to something else, students tend not to view that very favorably, and they tend not to utilize that M-learning solution so much. So really, again, we need to think pedagogically. We need to think about what are the overriding goals of your learning program. What are the goals of your curriculum, or if you're at a school, what are the goals of the school? What are the goals of the course? And if you have a very clear idea of what the goals are, and you can enunciate, if you can say what those goals are, then you can then, once you have those goals in mind, then you try to create a mobile learning solution in a way that fits those goals very clearly. And wherever possible, what you want to do is to make sure that it's done in a complementary way. This is why the flipped classroom is such a powerful idea. And so let me just briefly talk about the appeal of M-learning for trainers. And so what we have is, traditional face-to-face classrooms over here. And over here we have these sort of new digital approaches to language learning. Basically taking your cell phone, your smartphone, your tablet, or some other device and trying to learn over here. And so in the early days, it was really one or the other. And there was a lot of research which tried to compare which was more effective, face-to-face or digital. But there actually is a third solution, and that third solution is somewhere in between here, and that's the solution called blended learning. And what blended learning does is it combines face-to-face teaching with digital learning in a way that where both activities are complementary to each other. Now, the slide that you see here is a screenshot of the name of the study that I'm referring to. This is done by the U.S. Department of Education. It was published just about 2 years ago, and it's what's called a meta analysis study of research. So this is research about research, and that's why it's an important piece of research that I want to share with you today. Basically what this report did is that it systematically surveyed and looked at more than 1,000 other research studies that looked at the effectiveness of online learning. And out of those 1,000 studies, some of them were done very well, some of them were done okay, and some of them were done poorly. But out of those 1,000 studies, what they did is they took the top 50 best done studies. And by best done, I mean studies that were very rigorous, that had large number of students studying, that had conditions that compared online learning with face-to-face learning, with blended learning, and also in every case had to have one control group as well. Now, what the results of this U.S. Department of Education study found is that consistently in almost every study, they found that blended learning, right, that the one in the middle, the one that takes face-to-face and online and puts them together, that blended learning in almost every case outperformed the other two. So if face-to-face was here and digital was here, blended learning was up here. Blended learning was almost always more effective. And this is a very important point, again, for trainers. So if you're a trainer and you're wanting to do the best that you can for your learners, then utilizing mobile learning in a blended learning solution is very, very important. And this is why I'm bringing up the same slide again, well, a similar slide. This is just reminding you that the flipped classroom on the right, this is a very good example of how we can do blended learning. And there's a very good quote here by Mark Van Doren, which says that the art of teaching is actually the art of assisting discovery on the part of the students. So basically, we're not giving knowledge, we're not imparting knowledge for them to memorize. The art of a really excellent, of a really great teacher is the art of assisting students in the discovery of knowledge on their own. And that's really something that mobile learning can help to do. And this is where I would like to stop and to hand over the microphone and the PowerPoint back to Christoph. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Charles. Yeah, little challenge of doing a webinar between Tokyo, Paris, and all over Europe. Thank you very much, Charles, for this very interesting presentation. I'm sure everyone has enjoyed it quite a lot. I'd like now to share with you about Thales Mobile Initiative, on behalf of Murad Larab, who is Digital Learning Innovation Manager at Thales University, and again, who couldn't join today and is very sorry about that. Thales developed its mobile learning app in-house in 2012. Because back then, so why in-house? Because back then, the mobile tools from their LMS provider could not address their specific IT and learning requirements. And at that time also, Thales did not consider that the other LMS providers' mobile learning frameworks were meeting those requirements as well. That's why Thales went for an in-house mobile learning development. And actually, even as of today, in 2015, Thales still considers that their own tool is more powerful than the one of their LMS provider. To start off their mobile learning development, Thales decided to use a hybrid development technology called PhoneGap. PhoneGap happens to be the same framework goFLUENT is using for its own mobile solutions. This kind of technology with standardized web API is quite powerful in terms of integration with existing IT systems. And because it is a hybrid technology, it allows you to develop for both iOS and Android. And this with a single development team and effort. An investment estimation based really on goFLUENT experience is around 20,000 euros for a basic mobile application. But this is a goFLUENT estimation. Thales will not communicate on the cost of development of their own applications. So the development of the first mobile application from Thales University took 3 months. And the version 1 was released in November 2012. Like I said earlier, Thales Mobile Learning Initiative started in 2012, but with a very pragmatic approach, which was simply to go mobile and learn from the transition. It has now been about 3 years since then, and in the coming months, Thales will release the third version, the V3 of their app. This successful development was made possible by Thales' decision to build their app step by step, with manageable goals for each step. As I said, the version 1, V1, was quite simple and allowed them to enter the mobile learning space without using only public information, nothing confidential. It was public information about Thales universities, about the mission of Thales universities, and all that was in their app. Then the second version, in the second version they added video content, such as management, IT training, and the app was then connected with their LMS. And the third version, coming in the coming months, will allow Thales employees to have access to all the existing mobile-compatible learning content that is available in the LMS. So let's look now at each version. Version 1, going mobile, sorry, French accent. Going mobile is not difficult. However, it's a learning experience for any organization, whether IT or human resources, L&D. Going live with a very simple app at first, without the challenge of integration, IT integration, and content delivery, allowed Thales to release its version 1 in just a few months. And going live with this V1 quickly had a number of important benefits. First, it gave visibility to the project and allowed to receive much needed support, internal support. And second, because the app offered only publicly available information such as presentation of a Thales University, as I said, there were fewer difficulties to work with internal IT security policies. As the app was available to anyone in the Apple Store and Android marketplaces, Google Play, it was very easy for any Thales employee or anyone interested actually to download it and install it on their mobile devices. Anyone could access it and learn about Thales as a company, about its training initiative. Thales learned a lot from the 12 months following this first release. And their growing knowledge and consolidated experience became the basis of the second version of their application. So now we come to the version 2. The goal of the second version was obviously to integrate content. With the addition of new content in V2 came new challenges. Security, authentication were concerns that had to be addressed. But it became really important, and it was a strategy of Thales to centralize all e-learning through their tools and to create a unique mobile portal for all their mobile learning content. The employees would then access this portal securely with a single login and password. This was essential for Thales, but it was also clearly important on the learner side. Learners did not have to go through several apps, use several logins with several passwords in order to access different training content. in giving learners an easy access to all available content in one entry point, Thales was creating and promoting seamless, engaging learning opportunities. So version 2 was still and is still available for anyone to download and access, and they can see in it publicly available content. However, in order to access the learning content inside the application, the user has to use its login, its Thales identification. So the content, the learning content, is protected, is not publicly available. Another challenge that came with providing content via the mobile app was that some or most of the current content was not compatible, fully compatible for mobile. So while it is easy for a Thales application to integrate an entire collection of content based on single unique criteria, such as a category, it was technically more complex to filter through different kind of content within each course and integrate the ones compatible. Therefore, for this version 2, Thales decided to integrate only some categories, entire categories of content that were mobile compatible. And videos was one of the obvious choice. And for example, Thales integrated what is called the Thales University TV. So after 1 year of version 1, Thales released its version 2 in October 2013 with new content available, including videos. Thousands of videos actually were available. It's now 2015, and Thales version 3 of the mobile application is going to be released in the next few months. The most important improvement with this version 3, with this new version, is that it will include all the mobile compatible learning content currently available to Thales employees via their LMS. And the version 3 will communicate deeper with the LMS in a way that it is now possible to gather only the mobile compatible content in any kind of course or category. It doesn't have to take the entire course or the entire category. It can really go deeper. In parallel, Thales has started to produce some custom content fully dedicated to their needs and from scratch. Thales Digital Learning team decided not to migrate the existing content to mobile, as this required them to redo the entire pedagogical approach of each module. Instead, the team has decided to produce new content and natively designed for mobile learning. It's actually important to underline that this content can work both on mobile and PC. Even if it's designed for mobile, it is both capable of working on mobile and PC, therefore HTML5 and Flash format. And for that, for this content production authoring, Thales is using Storyline. On top of all this, Thales is integrating, of course, other content from its partners. Most of the learning content providers, as goFLUENT, obviously, are now converting or design from scratch content that is compatible for mobile HTML5 content. So I would like to invite all of you to download the Thales mobile application that is available on the stores, on the Google Play Store or on the Apple Store. I would like to just take a couple of minutes, I'll be short, don't worry, to tell you briefly about the goFLUENT mobile application. As I already mentioned earlier, we are experiencing a very strong growth of the usage of our mobile applications. We started in 2012, but we have seen in the past 12 months impressive numbers. And as of today, mobile is the most in-demand feature of all our learners. I'm very happy to announce that we have just released this week the version 4 of our mobile application, the version 4 of the goFLUENT mobile application. It's already available on Google Play Android Market, and it will be available within 24 hours on the Apple Store. With our new mobile app version, you can still access over 2,000 videos and articles, join our virtual classroom available anywhere, 24 hours a day, and this app is obviously fully integrated with our learning portal. And of course, our apps are available for both iOS and Android. And learners with Windows Phone, they can use our web application. So what is new in our version 4, in our new application? We have added the ability for learners to chat during their lessons inside the app. If a learner doesn't understand a word, wants to check the spelling, repeat a phrase, his trainer can send it via chat inside the app, and the learner can reply. And we actually do even more in this application. And now our trainers can share an interactive whiteboard with the learners inside the application without any need to install anything or to go to another app. As always, goFLUENT is proud and always strives to offer totally seamless solutions for the learning experience of our clients and learners. And as well as for Thales mobile application, I will invite you all to download our new app and to contact us if you need an access code. And just to finish, I just want to talk about deployment and to revert to what was said earlier about the Thales approach to mobile learning. This Thales approach is basically the option 3. I'm starting the way, the wrong order, but I'll start with the option 3. What is Thales doing today? Thales is actually integrating content through web APIs into their mobile learning application, which goFLUENT offers. This is one of the approach we offer to our clients, to integrate and send our content inside the app. Other options, the simplest one, is just all learners enrolled in an e-learning program with goFLUENT can use the same login and password to access our mobile learning apps, and everything they do on the app is totally integrated with the portal on the web. And the option 2 is we create fully dedicated app for some of our clients with their logo, with their design, fully available, just dedicated to them, and we can even integrate some of their own content into our applications that actually becoming their application. So goFLUENT offers a lot of different deployment opportunities to its clients. We are about to thank you for listening to our different presentations during this webinar, and invite you, if you have some questions, to submit your questions on the chat feature. Just give us a couple of seconds to go through the question. And I would like to wish you all the best for deploying mobile learning in your companies. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a very good day.
Thank you very much.